Revealed. How I transformed my family's heartbreak into an amazing journey of recovery and love. Samantha fought back the heaviness in her chest as she entered the clinic, the sterile smell of disinfectant serving as a ghost of comfort. Another day. Another stream of patients who needed her. But mourning her father had robbed her of the very essence of care she'd always brought to the job. Hico, Texas felt smaller somehow. The whispers in the bluebonnets now a constant reminder of the looming shadows at her back. It had only been a month since her father passed, a revered rancher, who'd known the value of each word spoken within their tight-knit community. And now she felt adrift. Every glance her way carried the sentiment of pity, scratching the wound deeper. Shouldn't she be stronger for Toby? He asked questions about his grandpa with an innocence that made her ache, his curious eyes wide with disbelief. Why could he not be here? She stammered through answers that left her feeling emptier. The weight of grief encased her, paralyzing her spirit and dimming the memories she held dear. Each step forward felt treacherous. Every corner turn brought a reminder, a worn-out saddle, a picture hung at just the right angle, his beloved Stetson on the rack, pieces of a life now shattered. Sorting through her father's belongings felt like peeling back layers of anguish, exposing raw emotions. And then, amidst a sea of familiar relics, she uncovered a faded letter. The delicate script revealed a dispute surrounding an old family property. It was a potential lifeline, an ancestral home with art that could mean so much more than financial security. Yet the shadows returned. Legal battles and idle talk swept her into a storm she wasn't prepared for. The enormous weight of honoring her father felt heavier than ever. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue seeking answers. She approached Finn, her father's childhood friend, hoping he could help her navigate the tangled history of her family. But in a town with unyielding prejudices against the girl who grew up to be just the nurse, she encountered more than just legal hurdles. She faced eye rolls and hushed laughter. The council meeting left her reeling, those condescending glances cutting deeper than she anticipated. Who was she to reclaim what they considered long lost? Doubt crept in, sinking its claws into her heart, whispering dark judgments. Could she measure up to her father's legacy? Each effort to stand up felt quashed by their derision. She took refuge in Finn's art-filled studio, where colors danced vibrantly against the walls, providing solace and clarity in her storm-soaked soul. Yet during those serene moments, she recognized the insidious voices from outside, threatening to drown out her whispers of hope. They were far more than mere trees in the bluebonnets. They were reminders of the uphill battle she faced, her father's honor at stake. And just when flickers of strength had begun to ignite within her, a letter arrived, a notice from the town council demanding her family relinquish everything. A rush of nausea and panic coursed through her, enveloping her in despair. Could she truly fight against the tide? Would she bend under the pressure or rise in defiance? The air grew thick with urgency as she steadied herself for a fight, her family's legacy teetering on the brink, veering toward chaos. The final echoes of her father's teachings rang in her ears, hammering her resolve. The stakes had never felt higher, and the looming question remained. When would her heart finally break? Samantha clutched the letter, its weight pressing on her like lead. Her heart raced. The urgency was palpable. This was no ordinary notice. It felt like a declaration of war, her family's home and legacy endangered by those who asserted a right over it, treating her fragile situation like a sport. She stood in Finn's studio, the vibrant swirls of paint contrasting vividly against her gray cloud of despair. Bursting into tears felt warranted, but she fought the instinct down. Crying would not reclaim what was hers. Fighting means creating strategies, not just emotions, she whispered to herself, recalling the countless hours spent with her father discussing everything from ranching to resilience. She sank into a nearby chair and pulled out a sketchbook where Finn had left behind an unfinished drawing, the lines capturing raw potential. It was as if Finn had already imprinted on the page an invitation to envision her path if she could just bring her thoughts back to focus. Resolutely, she grabbed a pencil and began sketching. Her father's gaze, How it once lit up when he spoke of the land and its heritage. Each line felt like life injected back into her heavy heart, igniting a newfound determination. Fragments of his teachings unfurled in her mind, guiding her toward action. It was time to channel her grief into something constructive. Driven by a newly kindled sense of purpose, she approached Finn with a plan. "Let us gather everything we need about the property dispute," she said, voice steady and unyielding. "We need to understand the truth behind that letter, and how we can push back. I won't let them take it without a fight." Finn raised an eyebrow, his artful demeanor shifting into that of cautious support. "You'll need a proper legal framework. Whatever they are planning won't be easy to dismantle. Are you sure you're ready for this?" "More than ever," she replied, the flame of conviction sparking her brown eyes. "With or without their approval, I'll defend my father's legacy." Running through hours of research together, Samantha quickly absorbed legal terminology she had previously dismissed as unimportant. Each document felt like a stepping stone toward reclaiming her voice in this community. Exhaustion seeped into her bones, yet determination propelled her forward. Finn found that amid the mountains of paper, an ambitious warmth dwelled within her, eclipsing the doubts. He marveled at her capacity to navigate the system, realizing that the girl he once knew had evolved into a formidable woman. Days turned into long nights steeped in strategy. Samantha wrestled with every detail and every judgment she ever faced. Confronted with townsfolk declaring her a mere nurse, she used that label to her advantage, refusing to let anyone diminish her. To be a nurse meant to care deeply, to understand the fragility of life, a fitting tribute to her father, and a rallying point for her mission. As the council meeting approached a battleground where she confront her adversaries, her spirit was laced with anxiety, but also fortified by clarity. No longer an angle for laughter or derision, she present truths that would demand respect. Flashes of Toby's innocent curiosity echoed in her mind as a reminder of what was on the line. She would not let the cycle of disbelief continue. This was far more than her father's legacy. It was her son's future. That night, as she reviewed her notes, a tomb-like silence settled over her home. She flipped through her father's possessions once more, her fingertips grazing the dust-specked surfaces. Each item, once a source of pain, became a placeholder for her resolve. As she placed the last piece back in its rightful location, a glimmer caught her eye. Another letter, yellowed and forgotten behind a picture frame. With trepidation she opened it, heart pounding as the words inside revealed a secret that could shift everything, something she had never known before. The implications sent her mind racing, igniting a new sense of urgency within her. What else had her father hidden from her? And how would this revelation alter the game she was stepping into? With looming threats in their gaze, she sensed the moment had come to face everything she held dear. The letter trembled in her hands as she processed the astonishing news. The carefully penned words revealed not only a secret, but a potential ace missing from her strategic deck. It outlined a hidden clause in the original property deed, a provision that could drastically complicate the claims of her adversaries. Suddenly, the tables might not just be turned, they could be flipped entirely. Samantha sank deeper into the chair, her pulse a wild thrum beneath her skin. This newfound knowledge was a weapon, both exciting and daunting, but she wouldn't wield it blindly. She leaned back and closed her eyes, running through imagined scenarios, weighing her options. Her father had always said that knowledge was power, but knowing how to use that power took wisdom and restraint. The hours slipped by as she immersed herself in thoughts, alternating between planning what she would convey at the council meeting and the emotional weight of her father's legacy. There was no room for hesitation. The time for her transformation was now, and she recognized that to step into this battle with confidence required more than legal strategies. It necessitated a deep commitment to her own identity. Shifting from brokenness into clarity, she had to embody the very essence of resilience. The old Samantha had walked the world with a veneer of fragility, but the woman she was becoming was a force of nature. The nurse who had healed others now had to heal her family's legacy and assert her place in the community. Determined, she laid the letter down on the table beside her father's framed portrait. "You always taught me to stand firm, Dad. I'll make you proud," she whispered. The next morning dawned with a frenetic energy. Her heart drummed a powerful rhythm as she prepared for the council meeting. She dressed with intention, donning a dark blazer that felt both protective and empowering. As she gazed into the mirror, she focused not on the woman who had weathered hurt, but rather on the warrior ready to reclaim her ground. Arriving at the council hall, she was met with a buzz of conversations that hummed like a live wire, each word a potential pitfall or an anchor of support. The air thickened with tension as she took her place at the front of the room. Discussing her proposal, she felt the need to connect every word with authenticity, to weave her vendetta into the fabric of her father's dreams. Then came the moment of reckoning. As she began her testimony, presenting the hidden clause, the room drew silent. Faces turned, some skeptical, some intrigued. A ripple ran through her audience as disbelief blended with curiosity. She seized the moment to harness their attention, drawing from her recollections of resilience, of care, and of familial duty. Her voice rose unwavering, the passion igniting in her core. Not only do I defend my father's legacy, but I also fight for the principles of fairness and honesty that should guide our community, she declared, glancing among her peers. But just as she navigated the tide of skepticism, an unexpected confrontation emerged from the back of the room. A prominent figure, a long-standing opponent with deep roots in the community, stood up, a scowl etched deep across his face. Your father's words belong to the past, Samantha. If you're going to hide behind some technicality, don't expect respect, he sneered, casting a challenge at her that felt like a punch to the gut. The mutter of applause mingled with dissent, heightening the stakes of the moment. Her heart raced, uncertainty clawing at her composure. Would she sink back into doubt? Or could she leverage her vulnerability as strength? In that charged atmosphere, everything hinged on her next move. Respect is earned through actions, not intentions, she countered, channeling every ounce of her father's lessons into her retort. As the confrontation escalated, she felt the walls of her past closing in. The surreal energy in the room matched her rapid thoughts. She had to dig deep, showing her opponents that the daughter of her father would not merely survive. She would thrive. Let me show you what I'm fighting for, she proposed, her resolve solidifying into a vast expanse of courage. This wasn't just a battle for land. It was a battle for legacy and for herself. She felt the pulse of determination surging through her veins. But the stakes had only just escalated, and she was aware that shadows lingered just beyond the light of her newfound confidence. Would she be able to rise above the challenges that lay ahead? And what further secrets lay buried in the past waiting to be unearthed? With all eyes on her and an undeniable tension in the air, she was ready for whatever came next. The council meeting was only the beginning. Her journey towards full reclamation had just begun, and with each heartbeat, she sensed impending revelations that could change everything yet again. As the council meeting adjourned, the atmosphere buzzed not just with the echoes of dissent, but with an unfamiliar energy coursing through Samantha. She had stepped from the shadows into the light, but the glare was blinding. Each exchange, every challenge, had fueled a growing ember of resolve within her. But deep down, uncertainty twisted in knots. Had she truly left behind the girl who had hesitated, the one who had felt small amidst towering doubts? The corridor outside the meeting room swelled with voices, but her focus shifted inward. Riding the wave of adrenaline, she navigated through her thoughts, piecing together her next actions as if assembling a puzzle whose picture remained frustratingly unclear. Winning this legal battle was paramount, but she recognized that she had to redefine her role. She could no longer be just a daughter or a nurse. She had to become a leader. On her drive home, the city slipping past in a blur of colors, she recalled the reactions rippling through the room. Some had leaned in, their interest piqued. Others had tightened their jaws in resistance. It dawned on her that her voice was just the beginning. She needed allies, individuals who understood the value of legacy and were willing to challenge the status quo alongside her. That evening she began formulating a plan. She opened her laptop, pages filling with notes, names, and strategies. The hidden clause wasn't merely a loophole. It was a rallying cry. If she could galvanize support around her father's vision, perhaps she could reshape the narrative woven into the fabric of her community. As she typed, memories of late-night conversations with her father bubbled to the surface. He had always encouraged her to be more than a caretaker. He wanted her spirit to guide change. With each keystroke, she felt his belief bolster her burgeoning confidence, the weight of his expectations transforming into a mantle of empowerment. The next few days morphed into a whirlwind. Equipped with her newfound direction, she reached out to contacts both familiar and new. She engaged the older residents who had shared laughter and stories with her father, reminding them of the values he espoused, values they cherished as cornerstones of their lives. The more she connected, the more stories of struggle and resilience surfaced, weaving an intricate tapestry of shared experiences that underpinned her cause. Yet, lingering doubt hovered at the periphery. Had she acted too rashly too soon? The reaction from her adversaries would be swift, she sensed. They had already shown their cards by challenging her at the meeting. What was to stop them from launching a full frontal attack on her character or the authenticity of her claims? A meeting with her attorney confirmed her fears. They'll come at you hard, Samantha. Expect everything from legal maneuvers to personal attacks. You must be prepared, he advised. His voice, grim but steady determination, ignited anew within her. I won't back down. I have to keep fighting for what's right. The attorney nodded, approving her courage. Then let us ensure you're equipped for whatever they throw at you. Every piece of evidence, every narrative twist, has to be airtight. That night, she set up a small war room in her apartment. Hours turned into days as she meticulously cataloged information, scrutinized documents, and rehearsed her arguments in front of the mirror. Each task solidified her stance, building a fortress of resilience against external assaults. As her preparation progressed, the specter of confrontation loomed closer, weightier than ever. Sessions of self-reflection reminded her of the stakes. This was not merely about property. It was a battleground for her identity and her family's legacy. Failure was not an option. Beneath the surface of her confidence, another truth took hold. The confrontation she anticipated could reveal more than mere adversities. It could unveil hidden strengths she had yet to acknowledge. The time for courage approached, leaving her with a single haunting question. When the moment came to face her opponents again, would she rise to the occasion, or would she falter? With the council adjourned and the city murmuring in twilight, Samantha stood at the threshold of both opportunity and adversity, a journey of discovery unfolding before her. What awaited her in the next council meeting was not just a pivotal moment for her father's legacy, but a test of her willpower, a chance to define herself fully. The echo of her heart morphed into the rhythm of resolve as she whispered to herself, "Now is the time." With this newfound clarity, she was prepared not just for a confrontation, but for a transformation that could lead her to uncover profound truths about herself. Though driven by fear, she embraced the anticipation of unveiling the mystery within, as she braced herself for the challenges ahead. The next battle would not only require her to protect her past, but also to forge her own indelible future. The days drew closer to the next council meeting, a ticking clock that reverberated in the silence of Samantha's apartment as she prepared for battle. Each passing hour brought with it a tinge of anxiety, but also a burgeoning fortitude that surged through her veins. She had spent countless evenings plotting her strategy, documenting her father's vision, the legal subtleties of their proposal, and the whispers of doubt that had sought to undermine her resolve. It was late one night when, amidst the clutter of papers and disheveled notes, a sudden clarity descended upon her. She was no longer just a vessel of her father's legacy. She was becoming a conduit of change herself. In her fervor to prepare, she had overlooked one crucial component. She needed to weave her own narrative, a personal story that addressed the human elements buried beneath the legal jargon. That realization compelled her to pick up her phone, a bold decision fueled by newfound confidence. She called the local radio station. Their producer had become a staple at community events, known for championing underdogs and untold stories. After a brief conversation, she managed to secure a slot for an interview. It was an unexpected step into the spotlight, but perhaps that was exactly what she needed. The interview was set for the day before the meeting, and as she practiced her responses, she could feel her heart race. Would her words resonate? Would she be able to convey her father's legacy, while also expressing her own burgeoning identity? Wanting authenticity, she chose not to script every word but to speak from the heart, where her fears and hopes resided. When the interview day arrived, Samantha felt a surge of nerves as she walked into the studio. The host greeted her warmly, and as the recording light flicked on, she felt both exposed and liberated. She talked about her father, his kindness, his vision for a vibrant community, and the challenges they faced together in preserving the memory of what he had built. The words flowed, mingling with her emotions, and for the first time, she sensed the weight of her story striking a chord with an audience that extended beyond her immediate circle. But what do you want to accomplish? The host pressed gently, inviting her deeper into the reflection she had sought to avoid. I want to create a legacy that honors my father while allowing me to thrive, she replied, her voice trembling slightly but strong enough to carry a current of conviction. This is about respect, yes, but also about redefining what it means to lead and serve. I can't just stand still. I have to move forward. With a sincere smile, the host thanked her, and as the session concluded, she walked out feeling lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. For the first time since her father's death, Samantha allowed herself to imagine what her future might look like, not just as a protector of legacy, but as a leader forged by her experiences. Yet doubt's shadow loomed, reminding her that the fight was far from over. The antagonists were still waiting for her to falter, waiting to exploit any sign of weakness that might emerge from her newfound revelations. The evening before the council meeting, she sat at her desk, her laptop breathing soft blue light, pausing to reflect on her thoughts. She replayed the interview in her mind, considering the infusion of authenticity it had brought to her mission. Then the insidious whisper of fear re-emerged, digging at her resolve. What if her opponents took what she shared and used it against her instead? What if they dismissed her words as mere rhetoric, laden with the emotion of a daughter lost in her grief? As she wrestled with that inner turmoil, her phone buzzed a message from her attorney reminding her to stick to the facts. While practical, his text felt like a chain binding her to a past she was trying to escape. Was she meant to choose between being authentic or tactical, the emotional or the factual? Ultimately, she closed her eyes, trying to summon her father's spirit. He had always encouraged her to speak from the heart, and it was that heart that radiated the most power. The meeting would demand not just intellect but also passion. For that's where true leadership began. With every ounce of determination building within, Samantha took a deep breath. Tomorrow would not just be a battle. It would be her moment to solidify her identity, a platform to project the clarity she had uncovered. As the clock struck midnight, she felt both trepidation and thrill intertwined, realizing that the path forward was no longer solely about proving herself against formidable opponents. The real challenge was finding her voice amid the noise, pulling from both her vulnerability and strength to create a new narrative. Tomorrow was more than a meeting. It was the dawn of an inevitable reckoning. Would she emerge victorious, not just for her family but for her own identity? Or would the shadows of doubt drag her back into silence? In the stillness of that moment, a renewed sense of purpose ignited within her, guiding her into the unknown with fierce resolve. As dawn broke over Samantha's apartment, golden light streamed through the curtains, illuminating the cluttered papers that had borne witness to her journey. The council meeting loomed on her horizon, a gaping door waiting to either welcome her into a new chapter or slam shut, leaving her trapped in uncertainty. But today, she chose to displace the weight of fear with determination and clarity. Standing at her kitchen counter, steaming coffee in hand, Samantha reflected on the interview. It hadn't just been an outlet. It had fortified her resolve. She had touched upon universal truths: the pain of loss, the necessity to embrace one's own narrative, and the earnest quest to carve a distinct path from her father's shadow. It was a potent blend that would resonate with those who had come to judge her in a matter of hours. Every moment ticked down toward that meeting, and although her heart raced, she felt buoyed by the warmth of connection she'd cultivated. Community did exist, it was layered within shared experiences, and positive change stemmed from those willing to voice their truths. Those insights crystallized a belief within her. She would not remain a footnote in her father's story. She was not merely his daughter. She was her own woman. Her phone buzzed again, drawing her attention away from her thoughts. It was a message from a council member, a friendly reminder of her scheduled time slot for the meeting. She had dived into the specifics of policy and legalities, but now she felt the shift in her mindset, a commitment to weave her personal evolution into the strategic discourse. For hours she prepared her strategy, but each point was no longer just a bullet of information. It was threaded with a heartbeat of emotion. She envisioned delivering each argument with the weight of her narrative, how her family had transformed grief into a driving force for progress. The thought brought a new depth to her strategies. She'd take ownership and blend passion with policy. With renewed purpose, Samantha found herself rehearsing not just the facts she had memorized but the heartfelt stories she had lived. The innocence of childhood dreams intermingled with the harsh lessons of adulthood suddenly became the foundation for the policies she sought to advocate. Her father had taught her resilience, and now it was time to show how that resilience could amplify her voice and her vision for a collective future. When she arrived at the council chambers, the atmosphere was thick with tension. She noted her potential antagonists huddled in their corners, their whispers tainted with skepticism. For Samantha, they no longer represented insurmountable odds but rather motivations to push her further, validate her commitment, and bolster her conviction. As she took her place at the front, a momentary hush enveloped the room. Samantha took a deep breath, centered herself, and grasped the edge of the podium. It was her moment of vital intersection between her past, her father's legacy, and her personal evolution. She felt the weight of her story swell within, ready to burst forth into a narrative that could shake the very foundations of the council's expectations. "Today I stand here not just for my father, but for the community you all serve," she began, her voice steady over the murmurs. Each syllable felt like a declaration of her autonomy. As she continued, the room shifted around her. Faces that had previously harbored doubt began to soften, their defenses loosening. But at the periphery, one figure remained locked in skepticism, arms crossed, ready to pounce on her every word. In this defining moment, everything hinged on how she navigated the dialogue. Had she summoned enough courage to withstand scrutiny? Would she be strong enough to fend off critical opposition? A glint of recognition sparked as the antagonist met her gaze, and Samantha understood that this battle went beyond simple contention. It was a reflection of her identity. With her heart racing, she grasped the reality that she stood at a precipice ready to challenge not only their perceptions but her own self-doubt. Before she could fully process the depth of what lay ahead, she prepared for the questions that would follow, gripping her notes tighter, knowing this wasn't merely about winning or losing. It was about defining who she had become. Would she gather the strength to face the increasing scrutiny? Was the support she had felt just a fleeting illusion, or could it indeed become a concrete foundation for her rise? With the air heavy with anticipation, she steeled herself for the confrontation she had both dreaded and awaited. Today was just the beginning of a new chapter, and she would no longer remain silent. Samantha's voice rang through the council chamber, forging a path against the skepticism that loomed heavy in the air. As she spoke, her words unfurled like banners of truth, revealing not only her vision but the depths of her commitment to transformation. The initially judgmental faces were shifting, some in imperceptible ways, others visibly intrigued. But even as she garnered sympathetic nods, she could feel the weight of scrutiny pulsating from the figure at the edge of the room. With each statistic and personal anecdote, she wove her way through layers of policy and procedure, creating a vivid tapestry that illustrated the heart of her message. "Our past defines us," she asserted, feeling emboldened by the weight of her own convictions. "But it does not confine us. Instead, it can catapult us toward new beginnings." Yet doubt slithered within her mind, insidious and persistent. What if they could not see her as nothing more than her father's daughter? What if her emotions detracted from her arguments instead of reinforcing them? Each time she glanced toward her opponent, she felt the pulse of her anxieties. He appeared unfazed, scrutinizing her every word. His expression a granite mask of skepticism. She pressed on, gripping the podium tighter, anchoring herself with the memories of lost opportunities and fraught moments that had shaped her crusade for authenticity. Each syllable became less a performance and more a confrontation with her insecurities. The room's energy ebbed and flowed as she discovered her narrative not merely a recounting of grief and loss, but a bold declaration of identity. The sharpness of the antagonist's gaze ignited something in her, a spark that transformed doubt into determination. Would they dismiss her story? Or would her authenticity ignite a flicker of understanding? In that moment of sustained eye contact, she reframed the confrontation. This wasn't just about her. This was about proving to herself that her voice mattered. As she spoke about the initiative she advocated, a subtle shift occurred in the audience. Mentions of community healing and personal growth began resonating with some of the council members, igniting varied reactions. A ripple of hope intermingled with skepticism. They were beginning to see the potential for change through her eyes. The transformation flared in her chest, propelling her forward. She allowed herself to reflect briefly on the growth she had experienced over these past few months, and how far she had come. But just as confidence surged, the antagonist struck with precision. While your personal story is compelling, how do you propose to implement these changes without the proper backing? He challenged, his voice slicing through the room's growing warmth. She felt the wind knocked out of her, but beneath the growing panic was a flicker of exhilaration. This was the moment she had anticipated, the moment she truly feared. But what if she could turn his doubt against him? Samantha inhaled deeply, summoning all the resolve she had cultivated. Your question is valid, she acknowledged, her response a careful mix of respect and steadfastness. But this isn't merely about support. It's about action that starts with an undeniable commitment to the community and its people. I understand the need for strategy for foundation, yet I believe we will find support from shared values. She had pivoted, challenging the assumption that her narrative was anecdotic. Instead, it was a prerequisite for innovation. The floor felt steadier beneath her feet. She was no longer standing on it alone. Knowledge surged within her, a revelation of sorts. Her passionate ownership could inspire, possibly shifting the dynamics of the room. But the antagonist wasn't ready to concede. Inspirational speeches don't change policy. Prove to us your capability to turn vision into reality. Each of his words was a snare, seeking to pull her into a defensive mode, compelling her to justify her worth in this space. Samantha leaned into the reality of his challenge. It was true, her journey was fraught with uncertainties, but one truth remained steadfast. Personal transformation came alongside tangible plans. She prepared another reply, ready to confront not just the opposition but the uncertainty still gnawing at her insides. In that charged atmosphere, she felt her urgency transform into strategic clarity. The path forward lay not only in painting a vivid picture of her mission, but in preparing to navigate the very quagmire of doubt expected in these chambers. And somewhere deep down, she realized the most crucial transformation was within herself. With eyes now fixed on her opponent, uncertainty lingered as a specter around the room, but so did the possibility of forging a different narrative, one that demanded respect from her critics. As her voice steadied for a response, she recognized the stakes had never felt higher, and each word she would deliver next would define her not just before others but within herself. Let us speak about action then, about transformation, both mine and what lies ahead. This was merely the cusp of her most critical confrontation, as the next question crystallized in her mind, demanding immediate attention. What would it take to turn speculation into support? The answer awaited, tethered to both her aspirations and the fight brewing within the council chamber. The charged silence enveloping the council chamber felt suffocating, amplifying every doubt gnawing at her confidence. Samantha's heartbeat thudded in her ears as she scanned the faces before her. Each expression was a reflection of the tension brewing in the room. Would they see the bridge she aimed to build, or were they bound to only perceive the ashes of her past? What lies ahead? She murmured, contemplating the weight of her own inquiry. It was more than a simple question, it was an exploration of her commitment to action, of what transformation truly demanded of her. She adjusted her grip on the podium, gathering strength, reminding herself that vulnerability could be a powerful ally. You want proof of transformation? She asked, her voice gaining depth, echoing with a newfound gravity. Let us discuss measurable goals. Change is a multifaceted endeavor, not just an idea that lives in rhetoric. She recalled the blueprints she had designed in preparation for this moment, concrete initiatives that integrated her personal experiences, powered by evidence from communities similar to hers. I propose a series of workshops, a collaborative environment where we can learn from one another, catalyzing grassroots support for recovery. The antagonistic gaze sharpened again. Workshops? Nice idea, but how will you fund them? You have no history of management in these programs. The voice sliced, each word a challenge thrust in her direction. The suffocating weight of doubt pressed against her. Yet she sensed a flicker of clarity. His distractions were becoming less intimidating. The people I've engaged with are ready to rally not for me, but for themselves. We can explore grants, local partnerships, other avenues of support. This vision isn't solely mine. It's communal. In taking responsibility we find strength. This idea ignited something in her, something transformative. Slowly, she was no longer just challenging the council's perception, but reconstructing her own identity as a leader. A leader who not only proposed ideas but actively sought collaboration. Samantha could feel a growing energy, a flicker of connection forming with her audience. Some heads nodded, and she recognized the glimmers of intrigue. Perhaps she could plant the seeds of doubt in her detractor's assertions. Let us recast the narrative, she continued, emboldened. This isn't simply a battle of wills. It's an opportunity to illustrate how we can redefine our objectives collectively. Each setback is a lesson propelling us forward. The antagonist's expression wavered, but he quickly regained control. Life lessons are all well and good, but I still require specific outcomes. What data do you have to ensure this approach will lead to success? She drew in a breath, drawing from reservoirs of resilience. I am prepared to lead evaluations at regular intervals, to measure engagement and satisfaction, to adjust our tactics as necessary. Transforming trauma into growth is not linear but iterative. The outcomes will evolve alongside us. And then a revelation struck, an unexpected insight crystallizing. The authority she sought to establish did not have to stem from proof alone. It could emanate from a willingness to adapt through collaboration, underpinned by principle. As she laid out her thoughts with clarity, she sensed the council shifting. Conversations burgeoned at the periphery, murmurs of contemplation and consideration, her determination enveloping the chamber. A hint of momentum swelled toward her as she navigated through her anxiety into assertiveness. But the confrontation was far from over. While innovation is commendable, the antagonist retorted, do you truly believe people will shift their thinking so easily? Presenting change comes with its own battles, especially when burdened by legacy. His words echoed in the silence. Legacy. It conjured both the weight of her father's shadow and the flicker of her own burgeoning identity. Did she believe it possible to break free from the narrative? Legacy is indeed complex, she replied carefully, but it is a canvas we can paint anew. It is not synonymous with limitation. My father's story does not dictate my path. It informs it. Together, we must redefine the expectations bound within our past to create alternatives. The weight of her statement hung in the air, punctuated by the resonance of her voice clawing for permanence. The response was unclear. Uncertainty still simmered in the chamber. Yet now she recognized an unexpected shift within herself, a resolve that felt revitalized. As Samantha prepared to confront the next barrage of doubts, she realized how crucial transparency and alliance had become in her evolution. It wasn't merely about vindicating her vision. It was about reclaiming her narrative while inviting others to do the same. She could sense the conversation pushing against her. There was underlying recognition blooming, yet shadows of skepticism remained. The stakes now felt intricately intertwined with who she was becoming. What if I am prepared to unveil my past as a testament of my commitment? This would not only humanize my journey, it could inspire others to come forward as well. In that declaration, a new chapter awaited. Would they listen and accept the call to arms she was extending, or would they retreat behind their doubts? The answer felt delicate, shimmering on the edge of revelation. It loomed, a question of her very essence hanging in the balance. As she stood at the podium, Samantha felt the tension shift. A subtle, whispering breeze that suggested something monumental was on the brink of unfolding. The council chamber, once oppressive, pulsed with an undercurrent of curiosity. She had opened a door, but whether they would step through remained uncertain. What do you mean by unveiling your past? The antagonist pressed, skepticism etched deeply onto his features. His incredulity was a weight on her chest, yet it also ignited a flicker of determination within. This was her pivotal moment. By sharing my story, the mistakes I made, and the lessons learned, I'm not just laying bare my soul. I'm showcasing the imperfect, often messy reality of growth. This isn't just about the future I envision. It's about the journey it took to get here, Samantha articulated, her voice steady despite the swirling whirlpool of anxiety gathering within her. She thought of the turning points in her life. The stinging betrayal, the disintegration of family ties, and the slow, stubborn climb back to stability. Each event had contributed to the fabric of her reality, shaping her capabilities, adding depth to her resilience. Every member of this council carries their burdens, hidden scars that influence their perspectives. By embracing our narratives, we can begin to dismantle the barriers erected by shame and fear. The words poured out, raw and unfiltered, Stirring her own memories into an emotional whirl, the ripple of murmurs flitted through the chamber, signals that some members were considering her proposition. Was it vulnerability or strength she was revealing? Perhaps they could see the duality she embodied, the person defined by her past, and the leader she aspired to be. But what outcomes are you promising, Samantha? A woman interjected, her tone piercing yet curious. Words are valuable, but actions must follow. What does sharing your story yield? Authenticity fosters connection, she replied, her pulse quickening. When we acknowledge our pasts, we inspire solidarity, creating a collective of purpose. Our shared vulnerabilities can catalyze transformation both personally and communally. The council's expression shifted with her words. She began to see them not as adversaries, but as potential allies in a struggle steeped in understanding. This emotional resonance began to spark the courage she had once believed unattainable. Each nod of a head fueled her resolve as she crafted her narrative with purpose. Samantha's thoughts danced around her childhood, the power dynamics at play as she navigated love and loss. If she connected those pieces, her father's legacy of struggle, her mother's unwavering hope, would that resonate enough to pull the council from their entrenched positions? I stand before you as a testament to possibility, she declared, her voice carrying the weight of truth. The failure was never solely mine. It was a shared experience, a familial tapestry woven with love and sorrow. So let us unravel these threads, not in shame but in strength. Yet doubt clawed at her resolve. What if they rejected her vulnerability as weakness? Would her past overshadow the visionary path she wanted to pave? The fear threatened to sidetrack her, but just as quickly, her transformative moments rallied around her. The support of friends who believed in her, the community members ready to reclaim their stories. She had an innate ability to inspire them. Could she not extend that same invitation to the council? I'm not just offering my experience, she said, anchoring herself with conviction. I'm inviting you to engage in a dialogue. By enveloping ourselves in our truths, we expose the rigid narratives that may cloud our judgment both of ourselves and of each other. Suddenly, the weight of the council's expectations didn't feel as daunting. This was strategic. This was her opportunity to unveil possibilities woven from honesty. Could she provide them with the glimpse of liberation that she had found? As she stood, tasked with rewriting her identity through collective storytelling, she recognized how essential it was to confront the formidable discomfort that accompanied such authenticity. Growth thrived outside of comfort zones, and perhaps this moment was yet another crucible to prove that very ideal. Samantha caught sight of faces softening, a glimpse of cracks forming in their armored perceptions. It was tenuous, this connection she sought to forge. The stakes were high, but her path was crystal clear. To dismantle preconceived notions and cut through the fog of misunderstanding. Let's explore our legacies and share our own stories. Not as a competition but as a unified endeavor. Who's ready to break the silence with me? With that, she waited, the air electric with anticipation. Had her words sunk in? Had she catalyzed something more than just curiosity? The moment hung loose, pregnant with possibility, as she tentatively prepared for their response. Would they finally welcome the potential of a shared recovery? Or would the weight of their legacy pull them back, shackled to silence? The tension settled like a storm on the horizon, threatening to shift whether for better or worse. It was time to find out. The echoes of silence in the council chamber enveloped Samantha like a thick fog. She could feel the weight of every gaze pinned on her, rippling with varying degrees of doubt and intrigue. As impatient whispers danced through the room, she knew this was her moment of reckoning. Standing before the community, she was not just a daughter reclaiming her father's legacy. She was a transformation personified, ready to carve out her place with conviction. And in that very instant, Samantha drew deep from within herself. The clarity she had fought to cultivate over the last several months stood firm. She had spent endless hours honing her narrative, ensuring she was prepared not just to defend her father's name, but to forge an identity of her own. With her heart racing in solidarity with her purpose, she spoke once more. Let us build a future together, not bound by divisions of the past, but anchored in a collective ambition that honors our shared stories. As her words embarked on their journey through the chamber, an unexpected silence descended. Faces once etched with skepticism began to soften, curious eyes flicking between her and her adversary. This response lit a new flame within her. Would this be the moment that would frame her not just as an heir to her father's legacy, but as a leader capable of propelling her community forward? With every ounce of determination, she prepared to counter the lingering doubts. Change does not come easy, nor does it arrive devoid of sacrifice, she asserted, the conviction tightening around her voice. But it is through embracing our stories, through unveiling the complexities of our legacies, that we create space for innovation. My father's beliefs taught me the importance of nurturing connections. Now I wish to extend that inheritance beyond our bloodline. The glimmers of recognition emerged around the room. Monuments of resistance were cracking, replaced by curiosity. She felt momentum surging like a tide, empowering her to wield her vulnerability as strength rather than a liability. The antagonistic figure shifted in his seat, his brows knitting together. The challenge in his eyes was clear as he prepared to respond. Nice rhetoric, Samantha. But will your community follow your lead? Where is the evidence? Refusing to falter, Samantha deliberated her response. Evidence grows out of engagement. I am not claiming to have a singular path laid out, but following a story rooted in collaboration can illuminate the way for all of us. Together, we will establish workshops and programs, opening dialogues that reflect the beauty of our diversity, while addressing the complexity of our unity. This newfound confidence was monumental. She was no longer merely defending a legacy. She was taking pivotal actions to shape her destiny, channeling the teachings of her father into a purpose that shattered the perception of her identity, no longer just a nurse girl, but a pillar keen on driving transformation. Her voice rang resonant through the hall, bolstered by the steadfast teachings that had shaped her outlook. Should we not be leaders who protect legacies while simultaneously sculpting futures rich in potential? Together we can break down the walls we've unknowingly built. Therein lies the brilliance of community. Will you stand with me? A ripple of discussion stirred among council members, casting glances of uncertainty towards one another. But amidst the uncertainty, she sensed a shift, a burgeoning recognition that perhaps they had all been waiting for this very call. A chance to reclaim purpose in an initiative that could benefit them all. Each word Samantha spoke, enriched by sincerity and determination, transformed the skepticism that shadowed her past into an opening for solidarity. Conversations gained vitality, and she could almost hear the echoes of her father's voice guiding her as people began to elicit their own narratives, sharing pieces of history previously left unsaid. The antagonistic figure half-heartedly tried to object. And how will you fund all these proposals, Samantha? He scoffed. By harnessing the very community you doubt, she replied, undeterred. By fostering partnerships with local businesses and organizations, gathering resources through grants, and instilling pride in our collective efforts. This isn't my fight. It's ours. The chamber vibrated with a palpable shift. Genuine discussions blossomed, voices began to unite instead of clash, and she felt her resolve fortifying at the realization she could, indeed, do this. With each exchange she felt herself step further into her identity, transforming the pressure into purpose. She was no longer simply the daughter of a revered rancher. She was an empowered leader. As the tension transformed into collaborative conversation, Samantha took a moment to breathe in the atmosphere of unity, feeling the warmth of support. Had she crossed the threshold from a girl lost in grief to a woman leading from the heart of her experiences? The answer awaited. With the barriers of doubt now crumbling, she could practically feel her father's spirit beside her, pushing her forward to seize her story triumphed over adversity. The final vote loomed ahead, but she could already sense triumph rippling through the air. She had transformed the council chamber into a crucible of hope, igniting a shared vision that would engulf the community in mutual understanding. Samantha had achieved not only personal redemption and reclamation of her family's legacy but, more importantly, visionary leadership that would, from this moment onwards, shape the future for many generations to come. In the aftermath of the meeting, as she stepped out into the open air, she felt different, more alive, charged with purpose. Her heart was flooded with profound gratitude. The journey had steered her through turbulent trials, but she emerged resilient, her narrative enriched, and her place in the community firmly established. It wasn't merely about a piece of land anymore. It was about legacy transformed into resilience. With unwavering recognition of shared stories, she stepped forward, ready to serve not just as an heir to her past, but as a beacon of progress for a future rich with possibility. You need to subscribe now to catch the next emotional stories and witness even more powerful transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others uncover their own journeys. Comment your thoughts on this conclusion, what resonated with you, and predictions for what's next. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this dose of inspiration. Remember, true fans of overcoming adversity know the importance of supporting journeys of personal growth.